Hello, hello. This is my devlog post-mortem video about my Lego submission for the one-button game challenge that I just ended a few weeks back. I had some time right now during the holiday break to clean up and complete some things that didn't feel finished in this project, so I just wanted to use this little free time I had to, clear that up. Um, yeah, but I guess I just will start off by talking about the one button challenge. It's kind of self explanatory. The theme of this game challenge was essentially to make a game using one button. But in order to participate, you have to use their Lego micro game package. It includes all these assets, music, sound effects, meshes, and it has its own tutorial because it's kind of weird. Um, I mean, it's not weird. I guess it feels a little intuitive the way you interact with the bricks. Um, I should have probably opened up a test scene instead of just starting with this one. But I guess like later on, I'll just show you what I mean when I get more into this. But I'll just continue with the sort of quick summary. But yeah, so it was you download the Lego package, and then you basically had a choice to make where you can participate in the Lego NinjaGo themed category. There was another one for just only using brick behaviors, and I think the third category was you create your own theme. We just couldn't use some other third party IP, so just keep it within the Lego universe. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of covers it. I mean, yeah, there's some cool games that got submitted. I'll probably talk about that afterwards, maybe. But anyway, so here we go. So this is my project, NinjaGo Sky Temple. I decided to go with the NinjaGo category. But yeah, I mean, this is just like a quick video. It's not edited that great. I kind of needed needed a short snippet of video, and you know right before the deadline, so I wasn't really thinking about how I looked in the editing process. So there's like weird gaps in the middle of it. Anyway, like, there could have been a gap there that would have been preferable, right? So you didn't have to sit through that little loading area. But anyway, so this is the PC version of the game, or this is the state of the PC version of the game when the deadline occurred. Um, there was two versions that I created. I created a WebGL version and the PC version. I started off by building the PC version, and I decided early on that I was going to do that, so that way I'd give myself some time at the end of the project to basically optimize and scale down for the WebGL version. And I think I kind of lucked out by giving myself enough time at the end there. I think it was about a week for optimization because I didn't. There was issues that came up, obviously, that you didn't think were going to come up, and a bunch of stuff. Not a bunch. It was a few things, but it did require some time to have them resolved. And they all kind of are quirks related to the Lego package. Um, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. But yeah, so I gave myself enough time at the end, so I was able to create two versions. So that was the video was of the PC version. I think I can bring up the WebGL version real quick. Okay, just checking if this is still recording. I had issues beforehand where this thing kept crashing and it was not fun. Okay, I go to this. Oh, it actually shows in widescreen. Oh, that's really great. It actually shows in ultra widescreen. Oh, that's pretty cool. But anyway, um, yeah, it's basically. Oh no, it doesn't show correctly. But either way, I'll just skip it. But yeah, this is the WebGL version that I released or that I submitted. Yeah, it's the same thing. Obviously, you can see differences where it's like, particularly the thing that stands out. Oh crap, that was a bug. But anyway, um, you're able to see. Obviously, there's the lighting quality is not as great. There's almost no shadows. I believe. And then the other big difference is the draw distance. In order to get it running in Webgl, and like I think it's running close to 60 frames per second. 60 frames per second. Sorry. Oh, here we go. I needed to bring in. There we go. Yeah, I needed to bring in the draw distance really, really close. So I believe I changed the camera's near distance to like 100 or something. I might be getting the value's name wrong, but yeah. So it's the only way that I was able to, like, it looks odd, but because the whole game is basically like you're jumping off this cliff and trying to make your way down to this floating island by trying to collect as many of these green. Oh, not as many. You want to collect as. Oh, damn! I died. Okay, yeah. You know what? No, enough showing this. I'm getting distracted, and it's making me kind of lose the train of my thought. Okay, here we go. So yeah, that was my game. So as I was saying, the challenge of the objective of the game is basically you're trying to make your way down to this floating island here. I can probably just put this away now. This floating island here, trying to collect at least 75 of these green bricks. I say at least 75. I didn't put exactly 75 in there. I put like 78. So I tried to give the player a little bit more wiggle room to miss a few and then still have an opportunity to, win the challenge. But the main challenge is just to get to the bottom of the map safely. There's two main. Sorry, it looks weird. There's two main obstacles or hazards in this game. The first being these shoddily made floating islands. I will get into why they look like this a little bit later. But yeah, so and and these spinners. These are your two main obstacles, but there's a third obstacle that's kind of random, but you realize soon that it's like, okay, he's gonna pop up at this specific time. Is that plane, like you saw in the video? This dude will show up in the worst locations where you can't see him. He's right out of view, but I use an audio trigger like a few seconds beforehand just to cue the player into like, okay, this guy's gonna be coming up soon, just so they're alert of hey, he's gonna pop up soon, and he can, if you touch him, you're basically out. But anyway, those are the the two main obstacles, and the one more random obstacle. And the controls for the game, obviously it's one button. There we go. It's one button, so when you press it, you move left. If you press it again, you move right. And what I wanted to do was kind of test the player's, to some extent, dexterity, but also just timing, because even though it seems like those controls are limited, I try to play on that by having the player constantly have to tap the movement button in order to maintain center, I guess, to maintain a sort of a center position. and it probably doesn't sound explicitly like clear the way I'm describing it. I'm probably not describing it the right way, but let me see. Maybe if I bring up the yeah, it takes a while to load. Let me just turn this audio down. It's really loud. Volume mixer. Just turn down Unity. Okay, there we go. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to play with like how accurate could a player be when they're just manically pressing the move button and then still be able to time their trajectory correctly by and being able to aim themselves towards one of those green bricks, because the green bricks follow a specific, like, are probably the most optimal path. But the thing is, though, it's like I noticed that a lot of people that play always they're aware of when they make a mistake, because they'll press the move button one extra time than they were supposed to, even though they didn't need to. Like it's just like they just, for whatever reason, a habit or some kind of like weird muscle reflex that just randomly occurs, they'll just press it. But anyway, so the challenge is just being able to, like, properly aim for those green bricks and sort of aim your trajectory while you're manically pressing the movement button. But when you beat the game, whatever, that's how it ends. Let's get out of this. But anyway, so it's a simple game, obviously. So one of the things that that came up was the map size early on. This map started way bigger before, and I think early on, and when I was first designing the game, it was that was like the first part of like the editing process. It just basically was just cutting down a massive, like, it was probably 3 times bigger than this, if not bigger. But my goal was to basically try to make the game under 60 seconds from what was in the challenge description. It seemed like Lego was trying to Lego's trying to have these games, or some of these games, being presented in their Lego store. So there's, like, I figured this would be like a small arcade experience where it's like, it's really challenging to play, and it takes a while to learn, and then other people are watching you. And I was trying to aim for like a cinematic like experience, so that way, like, onlookers could watch the person play and still have an interesting experience, not just the player, because they're controlling it. So that was kind of like what I was going for. And I knew that these people in the store are probably not there that long, and if it's a child, they probably have, like, 60 seconds before their parents want to move to the next location or next store or whatever. So I wanted to keep it really short, and maybe someone can beat it. But yeah, I mean, it's relatively hard, and there's some, like, like curveballs, like with the with the plane that I throw at you, that make it kind of challenging. But again, it's just a way for you to learn the map and then start over. And once you get good at it, your objective isn't to survive, because it's like it's already second nature. It's more about just being learning the exact path and when to move to collect these green bricks. But yeah, so the size of the map definitely changed early on. It was a lot bigger, and this felt the best, and it was about the 45-second to 60-second mark that I was sort of going for in terms of just total play time to complete this game once you really learn it. But let's see. Oh man, if this thing is recording my desktop audio, am I repeating myself? Oh crap! I gotta check this. Hold on 1 second. Okay, yeah, back. All right, never mind. Sorry, I thought that somehow my mic audio was coming out from both the desktop and some other output. I'm not sure, but I thought I was getting like my sound sounded like like some kind of like echo, or it was just playing it twice. But anyway, sorry. But okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, so the first thing that I did in the editing process was basically shorten this map down. I was trying to keep it under 60 seconds given the context where this game would be played at, which was the Lego store. But anyway, yeah, and also for I knew ahead of I was thinking ahead, and I was like, and plus it's better to keep it short. So I knew that WebGL was gonna have its own limitations, so it was just better to keep the map size smaller, just considering the platform. So anyway, so the map stuff was pretty easy to sort of figure out the path, the brick positioning. It wasn't until the WebGL version where it kind of it got interesting to start moving into that. Well, you know what? Before I fully move into it, like, no, never mind. I'll wait for that. I'll save this. But anyway, the WebGL version was interesting because immediately you lose a lot of like the nice visual features that come with the rendering tools for like PC or like a console platform, like I could probably even bring up the other. You know what? I'm gonna bring up the other map and its completeness. But yeah, so like no, because I'm gonna just show you the changes afterwards anyway. So it doesn't matter. No, I'm just kind of like I said, like this is not an organized or really well thought out stream, or devlog thing. I'm just kind of just going with the flow. But yeah, but anyway, so it looked crappier, like is what I'm saying, but it's WebGL. So the lighting isn't gonna look that great. There's almost like no real shadows. No baked in shadows from what I can tell. Or maybe I turned it off. I forget. It was a couple weeks ago. I haven't changed any of those lighting settings in this version. But the biggest thing was once getting into the WebGL version, and it was having an impact on the PC version too. It was the poly count on these bricks, the brick meshes that Lego offers. And I think this is like the main thing to sort of like be aware of when you're going to be working with these tools, is keep in mind the mesh count if the project is going to, even like in the PC player, I was getting like 30 frames per second or less when I had a complete brick of like just imagine this, but just complete. I deleted the other ones from my folder a while ago, so unfortunately I don't have them to show you. But just imagine this thing complete. It was extremely high poly, and I had a few of them, and I also, let's look at these spinners, which are also made up of these brick components that Lego gives you. It starts getting really, really high poly, and unfortunately, it's not like super easy to. It's not easy at first. I might sound dumb for saying that, but in order to interface with these bricks, like you kind of have to look at them at an angle, and you snap them. And in a way, they are intuitive in this sense, but there were times where things didn't stick right, or like if you're not looking at it from a decent angle, they'll like pop in some other place. And there was other times too where prefabs made up of these Lego bricks would break in like different ways. So I think the weirdest one was there's a ton of them. Okay, there was one where, for example, like for some reason, these behavior bricks, which are basically just let me take away, which are basically these bricks that Unity gives you with the Lego package that have their own behavior scripts attached to them. The red brick right here is a hazard. So if the player touches this brick object, the spinner thing, the player dies. And then underneath that, I have this rotating brick, and if rotate action with a rotate action script attached to it, and that makes the spinner move. But like, if I made this right now, I unpacked it, but this was a prefab, and I would notice sometimes that when it wouldn't happen all the time. So when I would move this out from the project folder into the scene, sometimes one of these bricks, sometimes both, wouldn't appear detached from the rest of the Lego brick model. Wouldn't look detached, but they are, and it just would, obviously they wouldn't behave correctly. And it's weird because it's like it wouldn't happen all the time, but it does though. And then it's a simple fix. Obviously, all you have to do is just go back in there and just attached it. But it does suck when all your prefabs break and you go into your scene thinking things are going to work correctly, and it's like everything is just not doing what it's supposed to. But yeah, that was one of the quirks with the bricks that Lego provides, is that they do get kind of they get difficult to work with, especially once you start making more complex objects, and when you work with those complex objects in the prefab editor. There's countless times where I had a prefab that was like extremely complex, made up of almost a dozen or so bricks, maybe more than a dozen. And if I made a change and I didn't like it, I Control Z, and the Control Z would take longer than it would need to make the change, and it brings up the little loading bar. And when it finishes loading, my object is in some version that was maybe from half an hour before. So that was kind of scary. So that's why I was just like, committing my files to my repo often. So, just in case I have to go back on something that breaks like that. What was the other thing? The other thing is kind of associated with a really cool tool, but it does have a kind of a undesired bug that affects brick behavior. Brick behavior is the optimization tools for these bricks. So, like I said before, when I first started playing my builds, with everything, with all my assets, my custom bricks in there, which are these, again, these really shoddy floating islands. It was, running like crap. It was running like about 14 frames per second on the Webgl version, and I think it was running about 30 frames per second on the PC build. And I have a pretty modest PC. Running like an i7 and a 2070, so it's not it's not the best, but it's not bad. But this game wasn't that complex, and that's the impact that the brick behaviors or the bricks were having, because it's these high. Let me bring up the mesh for these things. This probably won't be the best place, but let's see. Let me just go in here, but just to see the triangles on these bricks. Yeah, so it's like, they don't look like much, but the thing is, when you start having dozens of these just attached to each other, it starts to really impact the game engine. I mean, the editor, as well as the player, once the EXEs build. But yeah, like, I don't really trust the poly count in Unity's editor, so I'm not gonna. It doesn't matter. But anyway, they start getting a little heavy. And to alleviate that, Unity supplied a cool processing tool that I didn't see it mentioned in the tutorials that I watched. I might have missed it. Maybe I skimmed it. I'm not sure, but I watched two different tutorials, and I went through some of the videos that Unity had posted for working with the Lego package. But this the processing tool. So if you click on let's go to let's see again, this was not planned. I'm not you know, I'm just kind of I should have probably had all this stuff prepared, but again, I'm just kind of doing it at random. All right, I don't want to ruin any of these packages, and all right, let's see. Just in case I do another game jam, I don't want to. I just want to be able to go back into this. Okay, let me see. I'll just duplicate this. I might delete this too. Like, I don't really care. I'll delete this stuff if it's boring. Okay, great. Here we go. So I'll just show you real quick how this thing works and what it does. So, like I said before, my frame rate was crap because I had these floating islands that were just, just loaded with polygons. Too many polygons for the browser to handle. So this optimization tool came really handy, and by using it, I was like able to just like instantly just double my frame rate. But it comes at a cost, and if you use this processor tool, what is it called? I guess processing settings. I don't know. If you do use them, I would suggest only using them for static props in the scene or background objects. Do not use these optimization tools for any dynamic game object that will be moving around or has some kind of behavior, because if it does, it will get busted. So I'll show you that. I'll show you how it works first, and I'll show you what I mean by it getting busted. So so it's a pretty cool tool. What it lets you do is basically based on whatever view in the current scene window, or the current view from a selected camera, or a camera brain if you're using any of the Cinemachine tools, you're able to select a region that the Lego tools will basically cut whatever can't be seen. So let's say I'm looking at, like, I know in my scene I'm making an isometric game, and I'm never going to see the back part of this white Lego object that I have selected. So what this tool would do is, and again, just keep in mind, I'm aware that the camera isn't going to ever move, so I know that the player won't ever see the back of this object. So if I'm certain about that, what I can do is I can add the current view from the scene window, and it takes it like a snapshot of that angle. And what you do is you can select what you want this tool to remove. So I can go. Let's see. There's everything. The main ones that I was using, and I'll show you what they do. Hold on. Okay. So if I'm correct, what this is going to do is remove the knobs from the inside of the Lego, remove anything that's invisible to the current snapshot that you took, and there's some back face calling as well. So I don't know if like these two are basically the same thing, but anyway, you hit process, and what happens is the rest of that object is just completely deleted, and a new mesh is basically created with its own custom collision, which is pretty cool. But I would suggest not deleting any of these collision boxes, even if you're like, well, this is just a background object in my game world. Like the player's not even going to interact with it. I mean, I want to delete these colliders. From what I noticed is if you delete anything in this little hierarchy that's created after you optimize a Lego brick, it something with the Lego tools breaks because you start having like weird bugs come up. And I'll show you because I still have a prefab that's broken like that because I was deleting a lot of these colliders, thinking like, oh yeah, well it's pointless. I'm not gonna need them. And yeah, like it just gives me errors all the time. But anyway, so it creates, yeah, so the tools basically they cut up the portion of the mesh that isn't visible. So let's do it on this one. But let's say like you know what, like my player will move around this white Lego brick, but they're never going to be underneath it. And you know what, like just to test it more, like this other set, they're never even going to see the top. So what we can do is we can basically take a couple snapshots. So sorry. I'll do remove knobs, remove invisible, and back face calling. And I'm also going to do remove tubes and pins. And then this is basically what's going to like just take this out, just so you guys can see. So I'm going to do add current scene. Add current scene view. Okay, so I took a snapshot of those 4 angles, hit process. There we go. So as you can see, oh, what the hell? Okay, that's weird. I don't know why this specific part's still there. It's kind of weird, but yeah. But anyway, as you can see, that's so weird. Okay, but anyway, as you can see, the top part basically is still. I mean, it's gone. I'm not sure why the pin things are still there, but Control Z. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if that setting even did anything. You know what? I'm not going to even take the snapshot. I'm just going to have that setting selected. Just going to just see it for myself right now. Okay, just hit process. Things from the bottom. No? Alright, well. Let's try another one. Let's see this one. No. Let's see. Sorry, I'm basically kind of just testing this right now. I felt like this one always just removed the top pins, but it doesn't seem like it. Here, let me just see what happens if you just remove knobs. Oh, there we go. So the knob, it doesn't make any sense. I should have removed it. I wasn't, or whatever. I had it selected. That's why. It just doesn't make any sense why it didn't remove that one the first time. But anyway, so yeah, so remove knobs removes those knobs from the top, even if you don't have a camera selected. But maybe, you know what? Maybe if you hit and remove knobs and then do backface calling. Yeah, I'm going to do backface calling. So I think the backface calling is the one that basically tells it to delete whatever is behind that face. Let's see. Let me just do this view. Okay, yeah, you know what? I think that the remove knobs gets overpowered or overridden by the remove invisible and backface calling, so it doesn't remove the complete knob. Whatever snapshot you take for the backface calling, if there's any of that knob that appears in that snapshot, it's going to remain there, so it basically just nullifies any effect from remove knobs. But yeah, so again, little quirks like that, but the main one is, and I experienced this because my little ugly floating islands had not this specific behavior brick, but it had the hazard behavior brick. And what happens is when you try to do any of these optimization things, it sometimes breaks. You notice it creates a new hierarchy for these objects, but it'll like it removes the script or the behavior, so it doesn't work like it would. So I did the thing, and yeah, so this is this specific brick. Sorry, I feel like I didn't specify. There we go. Okay, let's go back to that. Okay, so here's the alive brick. Like I said, all mix and stuff, and then so I have remove knobs, remove invisible, backface calling, sort front to back, which I'm not completely sure what that does, to be honest with you. Like, because the backface calling is basically whatever's behind, whatever triangles are behind the face that you're looking at. Remove invisible removes anything that's not visible by the snapshot, and then like I think remove knobs obviously removes the knobs on the top. Oh, and remove tubes and pits removes those things at the bottom of the Lego. These guys, it removes those. I'll just show you. I think it removes that. You know what? Let's sort front to back. Let's just try it out. Let's see what it does. Without without snapshot. Oh, it just deletes like the decals on it. Okay, either way, the thing that I wanted to show you was that if you do any of the more any of the other ones that basically end up creating a new mesh in the process, it destroys the initial behavior. Current scene view. Okay, it destroys it. So if you noticed that Lego script, let me do it again, just to show you. Here we go. Okay, so here's that script, the Lego behavior. It does what it needs to do. I have my scene view that I chose. When I hit process, and here's the hierarchy window where the object's at. If I hit process, creates a whole new like object tree, and if you notice in the inspector window, there's nothing about that behavior. It's gone. Sorry. Here we go. These three. It's just gone. It's just mesh information. The mesh renderer, material, the decals that were on it, but they're not there anymore, and then the colliders. So when I was using this with my floating island, with the hazard brick, when I was trying to fix my optimize my scene, I was basically going in there and not just like, and like I said before, this was whole. This was like a complete brick object that I made. Sorry, complete like floating island object that I made using like these two. I think I forget what they were called, but they're like they were in the Lego package. They were, but I basically just like snapped two of them together, like one rotated and the other, to make these very very simple floating islands. And because of optimization purposes, the first thing I did was I just went in there and just deleted like bricks, basically like individual bricks, just based on angles that I knew the camera wouldn't be able to see to begin with. And then afterwards, I went in with the optimization tools and started snapshotting, going like cha-cha, cha-cha, just kind of like getting these angles that like might be visible for a second, and using, a combination of, remove knobs, remove invisible, and backface culling. And what you get is these, these meshes that are basically have that polygon removed for optimization purposes. But it ends up breaking the floating islands because in this case, for some reason, the hazard action is still on one of these meshes that it creates after I optimized it. But like I said, it doesn't do it for all of them. And so you get, it's like I submitted this thing with certain islands that I didn't check every individual island if you were able to trigger a game loss state. But there was times where I did notice that I would hit it and nothing would happen. And because of time, constraints, I couldn't go in there and fix them before the deadline. So I left them as they were. So my original submission, I would say that like there was probably like half or more of the islands that just didn't kill the player, just caused a bug where they get stuck on this island and they're just not able to move. So the user has to manually restart the game. But the optimization tools did help, fix the frame rate though. So when I had time recently to go in there, this is one of my first priorities, was to basically beautify this little floating island thing. And so beautify this floating island thing, make sure that the hazard bricks work on all of them. That the player can interact with the floating island, the game triggers a fail state. And the other thing that I wanted to do was what was the last thing that I wanted to do in this thing? I don't know. I guess just like add some snow since it was Christmas time. I added some snow, but I don't know if I came in with that in mind. I thought it was just the floating blocks. Oh yeah, cutscenes. I added more cutscenes. Jesus, I can't believe I forgot that. Okay, yeah. So I came in wanting to beautify those floating islands and make sure they all work correctly. The other thing was cutscenes at the beginning of the game. I'll get back to that right now because I'll get back to that in a little bit. But anyway, yeah. So after spending a little bit of time coming up with some, finding some references that I liked, I ended up, let's go, I'm going to just show you the new scene. I mean, maybe I should just, let's see. Okay, whatever, I don't care. Yeah, so I was looking for references online, and I was just trying to find some kind of like icy, let's go to remember earlier when I had mentioned that if you delete any of the colliders or any of the meshes in that new tree that gets created in the hierarchy window for one of those optimized objects, brick objects, this happens. And I'm not sure why. I haven't looked into it, but it did cause issues with the WebGL version. But you know, anyway, like that's one of those other things I just didn't understand what was going on. But if you, in any way delete any of the objects that are created from an optimized object, you get this issue with their planar field tool. But yeah, so that's just an aside. I just opened up the project and just kind of showing you that this is what happened with the optimization tools. But anyway, so here's my updated floating island. Let me pull this out. So like I just basically kind of kept the same composition where it used that brick template that was in the Lego package. I just switched out the coloring for some on white and then added more of, shoot. Maybe I can just go to the prefab editor. Sorry, I mean the prefab that I made, because these are all a little different. Just to add some variation, I deleted certain Lego pieces on them and stuff. I can't even see this properly. Okay, well, let me just drag one of these out, the full one, so you can just see it in its completeness. Okay, yeah, so this is it. So like I said, I kept the basic composition. The only difference is I was going for a more like Christmassy, wintry feel to it. So I made the top covered, made it look like if it was covered by snow by changing the Lego brick to white. And then I added these like blue, like I guess they're supposed to be like stalactite type things with these like these blue longer stalactites coming down. I just used the leaves from the palm tree object and just changed them into like a clear blue. Kept it simple. So once I had that, I applied the same process. I applied the same method that I did with the previous floating islands, where instead of going in there and deleting every object, I basically went in there and kind of took photographs from every possible angle that you're going to be able to see the object from. I deleted some of the meshes, just more not for optimization reasons, just to add some visual variation with all the floating islands in the scene. But yeah, most of the optimization was handled through that same backface culling method when you're just taking snapshots. And in order to mitigate the issue with the brick not working, the hazard brick, I created a separate script that, let me see, is it called ground hazard? I call it ground hazard or brick exploder. It's I think it was supposed to interface with the minifig. Yeah, it messes with the minifig. It uses Unity's box collider. I think I changed these into a capsule collider afterwards. This might be an older version of the floating island. But anyway, yeah. So a basic box collider, and I implemented a quick custom ground hazard. It basically just lets the Lego scripts, hey, the player just touched a hazard, do something, do what you're supposed to do. Nothing crazy, but that was just to be able to work around potentially breaking the hazard bricks. But anyway, the next thing I did after that, I added a ton of cutscenes at the beginning because the original one, the original submission, I didn't have much time to add a lot of cutscenes. I just focused on a few key shots. Sorry, here we go. There we go. Don't save. So I was able to go in there and mess with the timeline and cinemachine tools a bit more and create a few more interesting shots to just add some flair to the intro video. I didn't want to extend the cutscene at the beginning any longer because it was already around 70 seconds, and I just didn't want the player to have to sit watching something longer than it would take to possibly beat, the game. So I still try to keep it within the original time budget that I had for it. But all I did was just add a few more shots, using a method that I had applied for the clouds in the Webgl version, and I'll just show you what that is. Because I'm still kind of going over the PC stuff, and I think once there's a couple little things that I did in the WebGL version that were interesting solutions to like a specific like WebGL problem, but or constraint, not a problem. It's just a constraint of WebGL. But anyway, I just added a few more cutscenes. I had this guy rendering, and I had two versions of him. And I have him rendering in a separate camera, so I have two cameras stacked right now. I have the one camera, which is the one that's moving around, showing you all the obstacles, your destination. That wasn't in the original, and then kind of moving around, just giving more info and showing the environment, setting the tone. And then the other camera was basically just facing the sensei guy in a medium shot. In a different location, in order to be able to show his text box, because that text box does not appear. It doesn't. It's always facing the main camera or a camera. So I couldn't have those shots and have his description go unnoticed by the player because it's happening wherever he's located at. So what I did was, I think this will make more sense when I show it. Maximize play. So there we go. The scene. Okay, we go. So this speech box that comes up, it stays attached to the master Wu, I believe. It stays attached to this game object. And I wanted the camera to move around and show the objective and the collectibles as he's describing it, but I didn't want to have to move him with the camera each time. So instead, I stacked another camera on its own layer, and what it does is it only shows this guy underneath the map. And once it gets those other shots, the camera moves over to this guy. The camera renders at the same time with this guy, and then once that sequence of shots is over, this second camera right here, this is the one, just turns off basically. It turns off right here in the timeline. Oh, no, don't break. It turns off at some point. This is the main timeline. Yeah, it just is. I have objects turning on and off and stuff. But anyway, I like this sequence too. I wanted it to be here we go. Let me play that. forward it with a timeline. The timeline thing is pretty cool. I like being able to forward through these game events and not have to like sit through everything again. This stuff is pretty cool the way just to handle these time sequences like this. But let me forward to the end. But actually, I will just show you. So yeah, so I can show it to you as it's happening. It's pretty cool. Okay, yeah. So at this moment, this camera is currently active. So this is it in the timeline. It's currently active, and it's showing what it's this guy right here, basically, and including his speech box. Oh yeah, it has to play to show it. But yeah, it's showing. I'm not sure why it's not showing here. Yeah, I don't get it. But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure why it's not showing it in the scene view. But it's in the game view. But anyway, so yeah, in this period of like for this sequence right here, these 3 shots, I enable this camera and it basically points to this guy while he has his dialogue. And once the sequence is over, once the sequence is over, the camera gets turned off, and I probably should have just hit the guy as well, but whatever. At this point, it doesn't matter. But anyway, the camera turns off, and then the only thing that remains is the main camera, and that other camera with its own separate layer is gone. So I'll show how I did that and why I came up with that, because I used it originally for a different reason. But anyway, yeah, my other second favorite thing was this sequence right here. Oh, wow, does it go? Yeah, it's like you jump off and then it fades into white. And when it loads in with a white fade out, and it just it starts like that. But anyway, I just wanted it to seem like it was one cohesive sequence, you know. And then and I also added a skip cutscene button, so at any point you just skip and load right into the drop, basically, so you don't have to sit through all that again. But anyway, where was I? Okay, yeah. So why did I come up with that? That whole like stacking cameras on and then having them on a different layer. Well, originally I created it because I couldn't use the same cloud particles that I had in a similar way, because let me go to okay, yeah. Let's see if this works properly. Okay, so if you recall, before I had mentioned that I basically in my let me go to my camera settings. There we go. Okay, in my camera settings, after some research online, I found that the optimal camera settings for Webgl are the near value should be 0.3 and far should be 100. What that does is basically starts rendering stuff that's like literally a few units. I mean, whatever measurement you want to use, but it basically, you can see stuff loading in front of you. And the thing is, though, when I originally had it set up, I had one giant cloud, basically. You know what? I can probably just show you. Fucking sorry. Here we go. Let me just, and I'm going to set it back to the default layer. Okay, so this is how the cloud system originally looked. in the WebGL version, and you'll notice the issue immediately. It looks really, really off. And keep in mind the near distance values that I had for the camera. Just making sure they're spawning over my player. Okay, yeah. Okay. So they're technically there. I'm gonna not maximize this just to show you. They're technically there, but because of the camera's distance settings, if any of those cloud particles are further than that distance value, they're not going to render. So there's times it does render and it just looks off because it's just there for like a second or two, and then it's out of, like, it's just not displaying. Or the other issue is that, the objective of the game is that you're falling off this cliff, and it's supposed to, like, in my personal objective was that I wanted it to be this sort of cinematic, cool looking, free fall. And in order to convey that, like, not just convey speed by having the clouds there, or convey like scale, it just looks like you're falling into this pink void, and it just ruins the visuals. Sorry, it just ruins the visuals. Yeah, so I didn't want to submit it with the visuals being compromised as much as they already were, since they were on the WebGL version. And remember, I'm basically like scaling down from the PC version, which looked like magnitudes better. And now it's like, it just looks like you're falling into some pink void. It just looks fugly. But anyway, so what I came up with was, I had seen this used in different ways. I've seen it used for like UI elements. Maps. I've seen it used for maps. I've seen it used for compasses. Like, yeah, I can't think of any other reason right now, but I've seen it used in different ways, and it kind of seemed appropriate for my situation. So what I did was, I basically created a separate layer. Oh, sorry, not projects. I wanted to go to project settings, physics. Yeah, I created a separate layer called clouds, and I had it only interact with. Let me go to clouds here. Yeah, it only interacts with clouds. I deactivated or disabled any other property here, and I just have it set to interact with clouds. And I applied that to the cloud particle object that I had, and I also applied it to a second camera, which is only rendering stuff in the clouds layer. And because I'm only rendering these 2D sprites, and very few of them in this WebGL version, I pushed out the far value and the clipping plane property all the way up, so you're able to see it all the time. And what I did as well was, I'm going to go to clouds. And just to avoid any weird issues where, I just to avoid weird issues, I just move the cloud particles aside and had the camera set above it. Let me just show you what it's looking at. Turn off lights and turn off. Yeah, so it's looking down at it from the same angle. that you would be. The only difference is that that second camera is static. It does not move with the player, so it doesn't look 100% like if these things are moving, like whizzing past by you. Um, but it did, allow me to basically, oh shoot, it did allow me to render the clouds without risking them not being rendered because of the the far and near clipping distance values, and I can have them in the scene the whole time, and I can have them render further, so they don't, they can still get, they're still the game is still maintaining its 60 frames per second, and it's not rendering every mesh at once. Only these very few 2D planes for the clouds. So I mean, it helps with the visuals. At least to me, like, it helps sell the whole thing of like you're falling from the sky, and it adds some visual variation. Like, it's not completely just one solid pink color. It's more like there's a gradient of pink and white in there, so it makes it much more visually. They add some visual variation by doing it. But I basically use that same method for the cutscene that I just showed you beforehand. The difference is that instead of rendering just the particles, I'm only rendering the extra mesh of Sensei Wu. So it's the same logic though. But yeah, that basically helped me get through. Achieve 60 frames per second. At least in that initial initial submission. Since I've only tested the WebGL version once, I'm not going to do it here. But since I'm already kind of feel like this is going longer than I thought it was. But yeah, so my suggestion would be to am I making suggestions? I think I just kind of gave the tips that I was going to give. But yeah, I guess that's it. Like I have a version up online. I'm gonna put it on my itch.io soon. Once this Simmer IO thing starts working, I'm gonna have a updated version of the WebGL version there. It won't run as nice, but it will, it'll look good. What else am I forgetting? I replaced the floating islands. I added the cutscenes. I think that was basically the main thing I wanted to work on. I added some some snow, as you saw, just to make it feel like it's Christmassy, and it kind of adds to the. I think it kind of adds to the overall look, to be honest with you. But yeah, if there's I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have to say about it. Yeah, I kind of just went over the main points regarding the Unity tools, the Lego tools. Turn this down. There we go. Oh man. Yeah, but I ended up just adding snow. Those few cutscenes there. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll just let this play. I'm trying to think of anything else that I need to mention about this. Like, I could have just forgotten to note it, but I think I got everything down. Yeah. So if I'm just gonna reiterate, if you're gonna use those optimization tools, they do help with the frame rate. but be careful. Only use them for static, non-dynamic game objects. Uh, they do help out with the mesh count or the poly count in the scene, and I would say, I mean, that's the only real suggestion that I have. Other than that, yeah, just thanks for watching. This is like a weird one. It's long. I kind of meandered a bit. Um, if you want to check out the game, I'll have the link posted underneath. Um, I would also suggest checking out some of the other games that were submitted for that challenge. There was this really cool one that I liked. It involved the Morse code. It was super clever for a one-button game. And then there's this other weird, like, it's nothing like crazy. It's just like an endless runner type game, but it has like a really cool aesthetic. Definitely like chill wave inspired. Um, but yeah, I mean it's super simple, but it looks good and it's very zen. But I think that's it. I mean, I don't really have anything else to talk about. Okay, well, I'll try to maybe do this again with some other game jam or project. But yeah, thanks for watching. Link will be below. Thank you.